Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Morning, one and all. I am Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. Thanks for joining me today on your what is likely to be busy Friday. So I appreciate you spending some time with me here. I am here every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern Time in the morning. That's 11 a.m. EST or 8 a.m. EST. Yes, I have to get up very early to do the show. So hopefully you're enjoying it because I would prefer to stay in bed for another 15 minutes. That's just me. But we're doing what we're doing here. Thanks for joining me again today. Don't forget, we have other shows as well. The SiriusXM on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. The first one being Jeff Mann's show, the Elite Sports Show, from 3 to 6 Eastern, Monday through Friday. I'm on with Jeff every Wednesday. We also have the Elite Sports Game Time Show, Monday through Thursday. I host that with Justin Fensterman. So we're not on tonight, but we're on Monday through Thursday. So catch us out in those two spots. Whether you're on Facebook or YouTube right now, leave your comments. I'll be happy to answer those and address them at the end of the podcast here, show here. I never know what to call this. Is this a podcast? Is this a show? How about just at the end of the show? Leave your comments and I'll address them at the end. How about that? We'll go with that. Don't forget to go to fantasyguru.com. We'll talk more about it as we go through the show. Click on the Join Now tab in the top right. Just one quick update before we dive into today's show. If you do indeed get the baseball wagering package, or if you do indeed get the baseball DFS package, and you can still do it. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why you can't get your money's worth out of missing 3 weeks of the season. So if you go ahead and sign up for that, as you see on the screen there, you get everything else besides football. NHL, NBA through the playoffs, PGA, MMA, soccer, you get, and racing. You get all those sports for free. So get the MLB wagering, get the MLB DFS, and all of those other sports, DFS and wagering, are added for free. That's pretty good, right? So check that out, the Join Now tab in the top right page at fantasyguru.com. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Here is a list of things we are talking about today. And we've kind of fallen into a groove-ish here on the show. Mondays, we're talking waiver wire results. On Tuesdays, we've been talking NBA with Justin Fensterman. On Thursdays, we've been talking football with the crew on the staff. On Fridays, we've been talking some NASCAR with Rich Miletto. And in those days, we have guests. I'm doing about 30 minutes of baseball, then we get the guests. In the days we don't have guests, I'm doing an entire hour about baseball. That's kind of where we're at right now, and I think that's a good mix. Maybe we change that up a little bit after the NFL draft and bring more of our staff in to talk a little bit more directly about that. But today, it's all baseball. As you can see there on the screen, we're going to talk about Kirby Yates, who's looking like the waiver wire find of the bullpen season early on. Logan Webb, Kenta Maeda, Jack Leiter, Griffin Canning, Jaren Duran, Andres Gimenez. We also have injury news. We have a Scherzer bomb. Huge update with Max Scherzer. You probably saw it already. We'll talk a little bit more about it. And if you didn't see it, stick around for that. Triston McKenzie update. Did you see the article over in The Athletic talking about his arm? We'll talk about it. Alex Cobb, Jameson, Taillon, Walker Buehler, Tyler O'Neill. You remember when Tyler O'Neill was healthy? Yeah. And his teammate Rafael Devers. We'll then talk about batting average and balls in play, and I'll get into this much more once we get to that section of the show. Way too early to do this, but I thought it'd be instructive for a variety of reasons to do this. Remember, use that promo code FSD20, FSD20 for discounts on the products over at fantasyguru.com. You can get the baseball package, the football package, the all-in package that we just talked about. All these options available to you. Join Now tab on the top right. Check it out at fantasyguru.com. Okay. And by the way, like you know this too, I say it every day, but youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. All the shows are stashed there. If you want to see me, including the hearing, you can see me too, see the graphs we have on the screen. You can also find us on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just type in Fantasy Sports Daily. And then on the website, fantasyguru.com, the Elite Plus tab at the top brings up the old shows. Okay. So before I get into some of the specifics here with the players that we just discussed, just one note. I will admit, there's been a lot of things going on in my life. My cat almost attacked another cat yesterday. If you missed that story, check out episode 123 where my cat chased a bobcat down the street. There's been a lot going on in my life, but I'm growing a wee bit frustrated. Just a wee bit here. Why? I legitimately spent 4 months. 4 months doing rankings for fantasyguru.com. And pitchers have made 4 starts, and none of the rankings matter. Batters have had 38 plate appearances, and none of the rankings matter. It's frustrating. I find myself answering a bunch of questions frequently, and it's like I can spend 3 seconds thinking about the question, and I know the immediate answer. I know it's sexy and exciting to find a guy that, threw 4 innings of shutout baseball last night, or that has 6 hits the last 2 games. It's not going to bring you long-term success in the seasonal game. If you're playing DFS, that's different. If you got to win a matchup this week only and head-to-head and you got a roster spot, okay. But if you're talking about making changes, to your team in a seasonal scenario, I mean, I've talked to you about this on the show. I've written articles about this. I talk about it in Discord. We're not to the point where the majority of the data we have now is solidified to the point where we understand who a player is. We're just not there. These things take time. And I just want to encourage everyone to remember, I didn't spend 4 months doing the rankings so that 3 weeks into the season, they all get thrown in the toilet. Guys are going to start out extremely hot, and then they're going to suck. Guys are going to start out terribly and then be really good. Happens every year. It's why I, over at the site, wrote the article today, and what did I end up calling it? It's too early to panic. That's an article that just, like I said, it's a warm blanket on a cold night. It's telling you that, A, you've got these guys and they're not doing well. It's going to be okay, right? And I went through a bunch of reasons why it's going to be okay for these guys. And there's write-ups about guys like Bregman and Bichette and Bogarts, Byron Buxton, Christian Encarnacion-Strand, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Jones, Julio Rodriguez, Gleyber Torres. A lot of guys in there. I would encourage you to read that and get my thoughts on that. Okay, so I'll move on from that for now. Let's talk about the players that were listed here. Kirby Yates. Kirby Yates had another strong effort yesterday and picked up the save, got the final 4 outs. He is rolling right now. And it's not just that he's rolling right now. It's what's happening behind him that's further strengthening his hold on the 9th inning job with the Rangers. Jose Leclerc pitched yesterday as well. Struck out 2 guys, but he gave up a run, and he only threw 10 of 25 pitches for strikes. He's a mess. He's just a mess. And he's not putting any pressure on Yates at all for the 9th inning. Robertson clearly isn't someone they really want working the 9th inning. This 9th inning job is Kirby Yates right now. And with the way he's pitching and the way Leclerc isn't being effective behind him, it really looks like Yates can run away with this job. And I said it the other day on the show too. Remember, Bruce Bochy likes one guy. He's always liked one guy. He's always gone to one guy. Okay? That's how he likes to handle the bullpen. He likes to have things be very stratified. You're the 7th guy. You're the 8th guy. You're the 9th guy. Okay? I meant innings when I said that. Kirby Yates is looking like he's got a shot to be the pickup of the year in the bullpen. And we talked about him, was it earlier this week, I think, right? And I went through all the bids in one of my leagues where everyone had bid between $2 and $5 out of their 100. So even in that league, everyone was kind of unclear. If Yates is still on the waiver wire, and I'm getting questions that he still is, make the move. I think that we're not 100%. Nothing's 100%. But we're in that zone where it's going to happen. Kirby Yates with health is getting 30 saves this year. That really looks like the way it's going to be, the way it's going to play out. So if he is available on the waiver wire, make that move quickly because he is solidifying himself as a 9th inning arm with the Rangers. A little surprised by that, but he's doing it. We got to react. Logan Webb last night had another strong effort. And, Logan Webb was somebody that I think I probably had ranked higher than virtually anyone in the fantasy industry. He went out and was horrible in spring. And so I ended up at the very end dropping him a little bit. I don't remember what. Let's pull it up. Where did I eventually have him? I got the information here. You can't ignore spring training. I especially with the veteran, you don't want to put too much of an emphasis on it. But, I only dropped him to 7th. I dropped him like 3 spots. I dropped him at 7th in the final rankings. And he went out and was through a quality start in his first effort. Looked really bad against the Dodgers in his second effort. And it was like, come on. Last 3 times out, boom. 7 innings, 7 innings, 7 innings. 3 total runs allowed in the 3 starts. That's been against the Padres, the Rays, and the Diamondbacks. So he's just absolutely rolling along. He's been fantastic. He's removed all the concerns about the slow start. He's pitching extremely well. He's not beating himself with the walk. He's walked 2 batters. He is not striking anyone out. Now, he's not a strikeout arm. He's never been a strikeout arm. He is he's the guy that gets you to hit it in the ground. He's the sinker guy, right? He's not Mr. Punch Out. He's not elevating fastballs and all that. I would anticipate the strikeout rate picking up a little bit. It's not good right now. He's at 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. But yeah, 22 and 30 innings. He'll have 150 plus strikeouts because he didn't throw so many damn innings. So in the end, he'll be just fine. I was a little bit rough there with him at the start of the season. Kenta Maeda, it's been rough, and it's not good. Kenta Maeda has struggled. And we are in the zone with Kenta Maeda where he is someone that a lot of people are asking questions about. I know people have dropped him without even asking questions. It's 4 starts. The ERA is 7.6. Let's look under the hood a little bit here. In 2 of his 3 outings, he's been solid. 1 run, 3 run. Well, 2 runs and 3 runs. One of them was unearned in that 1 outing. So against the Twins, he was good, his former team. Against the A's, he was good. Everyone is. Against the White Sox early on, he struggled, and that's disappointing because the White Sox have sucked, right? Then yesterday against Texas, 6 runs, 5 of them earned. The issue he's had to date is obvious. He's allowed 7 home runs in 4 starts, which is impossible to be the sustaining number here. But look at this. His fly ball rate is 38%. His career mark is 40%, so basically the same thing. His home run to fly ball ratio for his career is 14%. This year it's 28. Okay, so that number is going to normalize. We know that number is going to normalize. XFIP has him as a 5.2 ERA guy, not a 7.7 ERA guy. Okay. 5.2 still doesn't get it done. So what's been the issue for him besides the home run? Well, the walks. His walk rate right now is 8.8%, which is basically league average. It's not a bad mark. But it's the highest mark he's ever had. And it's been combined with the lowest strikeout rate he's ever had. So this is obviously a bad combination. We then go look at some pitch measurement numbers, and his velocity is down. Not substantially, but we're talking a mile down on all his pitches. That's clearly not ideal. And you see this reflected as well in the ability to get it swings out of the zone, 26% O swing, generating swings outside of the strike zone, which again is a career low. Adding it all up, he's not pitching well. If you're in a 10-team league, I understand moving on. If you're in a 12-team league, it depends where you're going. If you're in a 15-team league, I'm not moving on from Kenta Maeda. Now, that does not mean Kenta Maeda needs to start. There is, I draw that distinction. I did it with Hunter Brown, a week ago, 10 days ago, whatever it was, after his second bombing. I would like to hold Kenta Maeda. I do not want to start him next time out. I want to see what we got here, right? We're not hearing injured or anything like that, but, he just hasn't been good. Kenta Maeda has been far too effective for far too long for me to throw him out after 4 starts, even 4 spotty starts. And that's me. If you guys all want to go and grab, a rookie that's making 1 start, if you guys want to go Ben Lively, go for it. I'm not that guy. And, if you want to get someone that tells you to do that, you need to go to a different source because I'm not going to be that guy. Now, again, it depends what's available on the waiver wire for you. In my leagues, there's no one. If Kenta Maeda goes on the waiver wire in my leagues, there's a bidding war for Kenta Maeda because I'm in 15-team leagues with 30 roster spots. If you're in a 10-team head-to-head league, well, that's totally different. So remember that the type of league you are in plays a huge part of this. I've seen a lot of people in the Discord over at fantasyguru.com, ask me questions, say, I only start 5 pitchers each week. Well, if you only start 5 pitchers each week, Kenta Maeda, I start 9 pitchers every week. So it's a huge difference. So if you're in a league where you only start 5 pitchers, you don't need to hold on to Kenta Maeda. If you're in a league that starts 9, I think you should. If you're in a deeper league, I think you should. If you're in a shallower league, you don't have to. So weigh the decisions you make based upon your league setup. And again, over in the Discord at fantasyguru.com, when you ask the questions, tell me the setup and we'll get you an answer that works for you. That's what we're here for. Jack Leiter, it's 1 start and it ultimately means nothing. But this start, which was hideous, was exactly the guy that I profiled in the write-up I had for Leiter the other day. And I know some people added him. I got a bunch of questions about him. I hope you didn't start him if you added him because it was terrible. I'm not here to say I told you so because that's stupid, that's lame, that's sophomoric, and it was 1 start. Jack Leiter could go out next time and have 6 shutout innings. So I'm not doing that. But I'm using it as a reminder of when we talk about these young players, as I do all the time. If you'll notice a theme with me probably when I go through these young players, I'm usually negative with the young players. If I'm ever positive with the young players, your little antenna should go up, because I'm usually, my default is negative with the young players. Why? Because the game is so different. We talk about this all the time. Pitching in front of 7,000 people at some minor league stadium versus 42,000 people in the big leagues, it's totally different. It's totally different, completely different. Not to mention the level of competition, all that kind of stuff too. So, I say it all the time, just as a refresher, the first game a guy plays on the mound, especially, even if it's a number one prospect kind of thing, I'm just really reluctant to start the guy because you just never know. But yeah, anyway, he went out and he was bombed. It was a terrible effort, much in line with what he has done for the last 2 years. So it wasn't that surprising. Griffin Canning's another guy that I had some expectations or hope for, I guess is a better way to put it, this year. Kind of in that Kenta Maeda zone. Someone that no one was reaching for. If you're in a shallower league, he probably wasn't drafted, right? This is not, we got to go get Griffin Canning. But he showed some things in the second half last year. And it was like, well, okay, maybe this is getting back to the guy we expected a few years ago before all the injuries hit. Last time out, 2 runs allowed to Tampa Bay. Solid outing, 1 walk. That's really the first game he's had this year where you can say that. He struggled against the Orioles. He faced the Red Sox in back-to-back games, gave up 11 runs in 9 innings. So, Canning, again, against the Rays, showed the results that I was hoping we would get this season from him. Is it run out to the waiver wire and grab Canning because he was dropped if he was drafted, right? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not in that zone with Canning. I'm in the zone of let's continue to monitor this. If you look at the general numbers, strikeout rate of walk rate, of 6%, we love that. That totally plays. A strikeout to walk ratio of 3.2, that totally plays. You look at the batted ball data, not very good. The guys are hitting the ball pretty hard, and he's allowed a lot of fly balls. And again, sample size and all that. But we don't want a lot of fly balls here because he's got a little bit elevated home run to fly ball ratio for his career. And you can see the home run's an issue. It's 1.6 per 9 innings for his career. We can't afford to have that number be elevated as well in terms of the fly ball category. So put Canning on the watch list. Let's see how he does the next time out, but not someone you have to go run and get to. A couple of batters to discuss, and because these 2 players, one of them came up on the SiriusXM show last night with Justin Fensterman. The other one has come up all throughout the season here with people. First one is Jaren Duran of the Red Sox, and the Red Sox have had tons of injuries. We'll talk about 2 of their guys here in a second. Tons of injuries that they've dealt with, and it's been rough at times. They've had some positive efforts. They've had some down efforts. They're 10-10. They're not doing great. They're treading water. But Jaren Duran has done really well. And I just want to, I've written about him for a couple of years. I wrote a player profile on him when he was called up a couple of years ago. I think I did a player profile last year. I think I did one this year. I don't know. They all run together. But I've written a lot about Jaren Duran. Really like this kid. And he's not really a kid anymore. He's 27 years old. He's turning 28 in a couple months. He stole 24 bases last year, hit 295. He got on base at a good clip, 346. There were some areas in the universe this year that were really in on Duran, and there was others that were kind of like, oh, he's going to be more of the same. Right now, the average is the same as last year. The on-base percentage is up a little bit. The slugging percentage is a little down. In total, his OPS this year is 790. Last year it was 830. I think that's the kind of guy we're talking about. We're talking about a player that, can hit 15 home runs. He started to lift the ball more a couple of years ago. I think he can do that. But let's call him a 10 home run guy, 10 to 15, right? The real attraction is the stolen base with him and the ability, hopefully, to play every day. He's done that to date. In his background, there's a lot of starts and stops and health issues and all that. So, we've got that going for him. But he's played every game to date. 24 steals last year. This year he's got 7, right? So that puts him on a pace for 50 steals this year. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But this is a great start. This gives him a shot at 30. And if he's hitting 270, 280 with 30 steals, playing every day, scoring 80-plus runs, you're seeing it, right? And I don't think there's anything in the case of Duran right now that jumps out as a negative. It's all positive. It's all now, can we do this over the course of 150 games? And that's always the final piece for any of these players. Anyone can have a good month. Anyone can have a good couple of weeks. People can have good half seasons. It's doing it all year long. And it's something that those of us that never played 162 games in a season, I never did. I played baseball year round my whole life through high school, but I didn't, I was playing 50 games a year, right? The idea that you play that many games it's hard. It's very hard. You lose focus. You lose direction at times. Teams make adjustments. Maybe you're a little slow to deal with it. You've got things going on away from the field. You've got injuries you're dealing with on the field. It's just tough. But the start for Duran is really good. I see nothing here that makes me nervous. And in fact, I think the guy that we saw last year, this year, the combination, that player is who he is. Let's get that 150 games out of him. Andres Gimenez is the next guy to talk about. And he is also someone that, profiles in a similar way to Duran, different position, of course. He's playing second base for the Guardians. But last year, I'll say it this way. The last 2 years, he's been very effective. He hit 297 in 2022. The number dropped to 251 last year, which is a huge change. Hitting 295 versus 250 is huge, right? But, he had the same home run total, the same run scored total, the same RBI total, and stole 10 more bases, right? So, in total, he was really the same guy. And here we go this season, and he's not a sexy name because is there another level for Andres Gimenez? Is he going to hit 300 and steal 30 bases? Hard to see that happening. Could it? Sure. Hard to see it happening. So is there another level? Not really. And so, he started out well, then kind of slowed down. He only had a couple of hits in 4 games coming into last night or yesterday. He did have 2 hits and 2 RBIs yesterday, so I thought it'd be a good time to talk about him because we're sitting here with him through 19 games played. He's only stolen 2 bases, but I think he's established himself, and it's very reasonable to suggest 20-plus steals from him. He's got the average back up to 293. It's a sample size issue, but the batting average of balls in play isn't insane. The batted ball data is basically the same. It's a little down, so that, is why his expected batting average is only 254. He's not a 300 hitter again. I'd say 270. Let's hope it might be 251. I mean, it could be. I'll say 265, 70. 265, 270, 15 to 20 home runs. He hasn't gone deep yet. 15 home runs. 75 runs and RBIs with the 25 steals. That's a good player, right? And I just wanted to bring him up because he is someone who kind of slips through the cracks. I think if you're in a league where he's not on a roster right now, it's a pretty shallow league or a very aggressive league where people are just turning rosters over, and there are some of those. But if you were to take him and just stick him at second base, or better yet, your middle infield spot, I think you're in a really good spot if you've got Andres Gimenez. Okay, let's talk about some of the injury news. And I mentioned Max Scherzer earlier. You probably saw it. If you didn't see it, here's the news of Max Scherzer. Back surgery, delayed to start the season, all of that stuff. The original estimate was late June. Then the Rangers said, well, maybe this will be early June. He's doing pretty well. We just had a report yesterday from Ken Rosenthal where he said that his understanding directly from the Rangers is that the Rangers are hopeful that Max Scherzer can return in early May. So not late June, not early June, early May, which is 3 weeks from now kind of stuff. Wow, right? I mean, that'd be huge. And I've said this on the show. I said it on Sirius XM when I was hosting drafts. The rankings, I think, at fantasyguru.com, back this up. I was very surprised at how the universe was handling Scherzer this year. Because you see people in all these drafts and you see ADP and everyone takes risks on pitching, and it's like, it's normal. Oh, he's hurt. I don't care. I'm going to draft him anyway. He'll be back. But Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler was taken in the 15th round of leagues I was in. Max Scherzer was going in the 25th. Okay, I get it. I totally get it. And I had, Buehler ahead of Scherzer. I get it. But 10-round difference now? And we'll talk about Buehler here in a bit. Buehler's been struggling. Scherzer is checking boxes, and he's coming fast. I checked this morning. I have in 2 of my 3 industry leagues, Tout Wars, Labor, and FSG. I think 2 of the 3 I have Scherzer because I was like, look, he's sitting there in the 23rd round. I'm taking Max Scherzer. And if it's late June for original expectation, and now it's early May, we're talking about maybe getting 8 extra starts out of him, which is huge. So there can always be a setback with Scherzer. There could always be he returns and then, flames out. It could happen, right? He's almost 40. Is he almost 40? Is he 40? 39? What is Scherzer? Let's look him up. The point being that as great as he has been, he's not who he once was. He is 39 years old. He'll be 40 in July. There's a chance he never throws another major league pitch. That's a possibility. There's a possibility he returns and he's league average. There's a possibility he returns and he's the guy he was last year, which is pretty damn good. And I'm kind of leaning in that direction myself. So, again, depending on leagues and everything, if Max Scherzer is out there, I would give strong consideration to adding Max Scherzer. I think you should have done it previously if you have IL spots. If you don't have IL spots, totally different. But I got Scherzer on multiple teams. I hope you do. This news is very encouraging, and we need encouraging news when it comes to pitching, because quite frequently, as we're about ready to hear again, yet again, and again, and again, tomorrow, probably next Monday and Tuesday, good news with pitching isn't always the case. This situation with Triston McKenzie is a really interesting one. And again, if you want my write-ups on all these guys, you can still get the seasonal product. Use the promo code FSD20 over at fantasyguru.com. Get the DFS or the wagering baseball package. You get those, either one of those. And you also get NBA, NHL, MMA, PGA, soccer, and racing. You get all those added too. So don't forget that. Triston McKenzie is someone I've written about and talked about. And it's like, look, I was never in. I'm not a Triston McKenzie guy this year. And I've written about him already this year in the ramblings, saying, well, let's watch his next start. Velocity's down. The results aren't very good. We got a report yesterday in The Athletic from Zach Meisel and Jason Lloyd, who basically, and this is I give them credit and I give McKenzie credit, actually, because this is a really good article. We don't normally get this. McKenzie's got a torn ligament in his elbow. And the article has quotes, and the article talks about health and all. It's a really good article over The Athletic. Basically, there's 3 boxes that if you check the boxes, surgery is kind of indicated. That's the way it was presented in the article. And McKenzie's got 2 of the 3 boxes checked. A lot of guys that have 2 of the 3 boxes checked do have surgery. Okay, so McKenzie could have had surgery. And McKenzie's quoted in this piece saying, I wonder sometimes if I made the right decision, the rest and recovery and that kind of thing. So he says his arm feels fine. Okay. The problem is the results thus far for McKenzie are bad. They're bad. The radar gun thus far is down. He's down from where he was a couple of years ago. He's lost 2 miles an hour of velocity. It's not looking very good. Why has he struggled? Well, his arm isn't right. There's a lot of guys that have had arms that aren't right. I remember Masahiro Tanaka, his elbow was messed up for years and he pitched through it. You know, there's obviously guys that are pitching right now whose arms are messed up and they're having success. So I'm not saying McKenzie can't be successful, but if your velocity is down 2 miles an hour and you're not Mr. Trickeration, and McKenzie isn't. So for those of you holding out hope that McKenzie would rebound from his slow start, I don't know how valid that hope is. Because you also have to remember that the Guardians clearly are aware of everything that's going on. They're not going to push McKenzie because they know if they push him, it could be Kaplui. And if it's Kaplui now, right, then let's say it goes Kaplui in May. He then is likely to miss the first half of next year. If he had the surgery 10 months ago when the injury first happened, he'd be returning in the second half this year. So they're losing an entire year. And the timing of it is terrible because we're in season now too. So they're not going to push him. So if you got McKenzie, I mean, you can't get anything for him on the trade market, though if you could, make the move. But if you have him and you're on the fence of whether to hold on to him or not, I think this information is pushing me to tell you to say, okay, it's time to move on from Triston McKenzie. Alex Cobb, who's a really good pitcher, very effective. He's on the Giants, my hometown team. Always hurt. He's the Byron Buxton of pitchers. He's always hurt. And he was going to make it back. And there was talk he was going to miss the first 2 months. Then it was the first month. Then there was a chance he was going to be ready for opening day. Okay, well, he's got a hip issue now that he's been dealing with. The shoulder's a little sore. He's got an elbow issue. Like, I mean, I don't know what's going on. He had surgery on his hip. I know that. But now he's got a mild flexor strain in his elbow in addition to the shoulder issue. He started throwing earlier this week with bullpen, sessions and all that, and they're still hoping that he will be back in May. Does that sound what I just described to you? A guy coming back from hip surgery who's got a track record of arm issues, who has now elbow and shoulder. That doesn't sound like he's coming back in May. And even if it does, how does he perform? The situation with Cobb. I'm just really, this is really a news flash kind of scenario because you're not running to the waiver wire to grab Alex Cobb. You're not spending all your fab on Alex Cobb. I get that. but just kind of updating you because where it was looking really positive 3 weeks ago, unfortunately, this has become a Cobbian type of situation, which is very much, we don't know what the hell's going on, to be blunt. Jameson, Taillon, some positive news. He's been activated from the injured list. He's going to start today against the Marlins following the rainout yesterday. We'll see how he does. I said earlier in this show, I don't like it when guys make their major league debuts on the hill to use. I don't want to use, if I can help it, a pitcher coming back from the injured list. He had a back strain that sent him to the injured list. Wasn't great his last outing in the minors. Doesn't really matter, but wasn't great there. We don't know. The weather's not great in Chicago. Cold weather with a bad back. How many pitches is he going to throw anyway? If he gets in trouble, they're going to pull him out. So let's watch Jameson Taillon today, but we're not starting Jameson Taillon today. Now let's get to Walker Buehler, the guy I mentioned earlier in conjunction with Max Scherzer. Walker Buehler, again, the longest recovery in the history of baseball from a Tommy John surgery that worked without a setback. Walker Buehler was bad last night. Okay, he was slated to throw 80 to 85 pitches, didn't get to 70. He only went 2 2/3 innings. He threw 68 pitches in 2 2/3 innings. That's terrible. Only half his pitches were strikes. That's terrible. He walked 4 guys. That's terrible. He pitched really badly last night. And the hope was his next outing would be with the Dodgers. Still could be. Nothing. I haven't seen anything definitive. It's 8:30 in the morning on the West Coast. I haven't seen anything definitive about this. But after the way he pitched last night, I got to expect him to make at least one more minor league start. The Dodgers, one thing to say you're healthy, but the Dodgers have waited from September of last year to now. What's another week, right? They're going to wait it if they think it's necessary. And with the way he pitched last night, 68 pitches to get 8 outs, walking 4 guys. Walker Buehler doesn't walk 4 guys. He was terrible. He didn't have his control. It was just a messy outing. Could be a one-off, sure. But that does not, to me at least, signify a guy that the Dodgers are going to be promoting for his next start at the big league level. So it looks like we're going to have to wait a little bit longer with him. Now let's talk about a couple of guys on the Red Sox. Rafael Devers, we talked about him the other day. He's got a knee bruise. Looks like the MRI was okay because they're calling him day-to-day. Whew. We were a little concerned about, it was a little concern, right? They led us to believe it wasn't going to be a significant situation, but they ran an MRI. You don't run an MRI if there's no concern, right? They ran the MRI. He's being called day-to-day. And in fact, they don't think he's going to need a stint on the IL. So really good news there. We'll monitor that. But good news with Rafael Devers. I don't know what happened here with this next Red Sox. I do know that we were told one thing one day. We were told that same thing a second day. And then on the third day, we were told something different. Devers and O'Neill, Tyler, ran into each other. Tyler O'Neill, by the way, also the Byron Buxton of player, cannot stay on the field. This time's not his fault. He runs into Rafael Devers on a pop-up. Has 8 stitches over his eye. Check for a concussion. We're told he doesn't have a concussion. We're told he doesn't have a concussion. O'Neill, talking to the media yesterday, says he has a concussion. And that's why he's been placed on the concussion IL. So, again, concussion symptoms can show up immediately. They can show up a week later. Like it's a brain injury, okay? This is exactly how it happens with concussions. There isn't. So they could have thought he was fine for 2 days and on day 3 found out he's not. That's totally plausible. But what I'm saying to you is we were told for days he was fine and then he's put on the injured list with a concussion. Now, I came on this show and said the reports suggest he's good. Whew. That's what the report said. And this just is a reminder that just because we hear that someone's okay doesn't mean they're okay. Rafael Devers might end up going on the injured list. We don't know. When we hear, he's only going to miss 1 turn through the rotation, he could end up on the injured list and miss 3 weeks. When we hear 3 to 4 weeks for the injury, it could be 2, it could be 7. Remember that. I think we take as gospel a lot of these, reports from teams. Oh, it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks. Ends up taking 5. Oh, he's totally fine. He goes on the injured list 2 days later. Christian Yelich's back wasn't a big deal. He should be okay. Went on the injured list, right? So let's just hope that Tyler O'Neill doesn't have lasting effects from the head injury because some players do experience that. I think we've done a lot better job recently of understanding what a concussion is. It's a brain injury, and they are very serious. Some people snap back immediately. And frankly, some people never snap back. Like some people have concussions and will have issues 15 years later. Like that's true. So let's hope everything's okay with Taillon O'Neill. The unfortunate thing, obviously, is that he's not on the field for the Red Sox with his blazing hot start. And here, this is the game, and I wrote about this today in the article over at fantasyguru.com when I wrote about, those players that, hey, it's going to be okay. It's too early to panic. I wrote about Byron Buxton. And Byron Buxton had a big disclaimer in his write-up because it said, look, performance-wise, okay, but that health piece, that's there, and it's not going away. Same thing with Taillon O'Neill. Same thing with Alex Cobb. We can't predict injuries. No one can predict an injury, but I sure as hell can tell you which guys can play through them and which don't. Like sometimes you run into a wall and you sprain your ankle. It happens, right? Sometimes you're at home and you're cutting what are you doing? You're cutting a loaf of bread and you slice your finger. Things like these happen, right? You don't think that a guy like Alex Bregman has dealt with health issues? He plays 150 games every year. He just plays through it. Some guys can do that. Some guys can't. So anyway, let's hope that Taillon O'Neill is okay. He looks like the, Arnold Schwarzenegger in his heyday, but he just can't stay on the baseball field. It's really frustrating. Let's just hope he's okay. All right. I wanted to have a little discussion with you all about batting average on balls in play. Batting average on balls in play. Well, let's just throw the graphic up. I got a bunch of graphics that we'll look at. So hopefully you're able to see this. If not, I'll talk through it for those of you that are listening and not viewing. Batting average of balls in play, the league average is about 295 every year. Okay. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Batting average of balls in play does not count home runs because a home run technically wasn't in play. It went into the seats. So it doesn't include that. So there are batters that have low batting average of balls in play, hit 40 home runs, they can still have a good batting average, right? We'll talk more about that as we move forward. So again, the league average for batting average on balls in play is about 295. Point one, it's extremely important to realize that players set their own baseline in batting average on balls in play. Some guys are always at 330. Some guys are always at 270. So just because the league average is 295 does not mean every player is going to be at 295. Okay. And that has to do with the style of batted ball. Are they fly ball guys, ground ball guys? Are they speed guys? There's a lot of factors that go into it. But generally speaking, players set their own baseline. Point number two, any change in batting average of balls in play of 20 or 30 points or more, either up or down, deserves further study. So if a guy's a 300 career batting average of balls in play and it's at 270, what's going on? If he's a 300 guy and it's at 330, what's going on? We start looking when that number gets to be about 30% off their average for their career. You need about 800 batting average. You need about 800 plate appearances for the batting average of balls in play to stabilize. Okay, so talking about this now when no one has 100 is stupid. There's a reason I'm doing it though, and we'll get to it in a second. I basically just wanted to highlight some players that were starting well or poorly and point out to you the obvious here, using it kind of just as a springboard to talk about a few players. You need a full season of plate appearances. In fact, you need more than a full season of plate appearances. We often see this too. The guy's at 300 career batting average of balls in play. It's 320 last year. What's it end up being this year? 280, right? So this often happens. 4, a player's batting average on balls in play is affected by the type of hitter he is. Fly ball rate, you have much less of a chance of getting a base hit. Line drive rate, it's through the roof. Ground balls, it's between the two, right? Batting average on balls in play, again, to reiterate, doesn't include home runs. So even if you have a positive ball in the air, doesn't count in batting average on balls in play. So remember all that. A ground ball hitter will almost certainly have a higher batting average on balls in play than a fly ball bat, right? So it stands to reason that Nico Horner is going to have a better batting average on balls in play than Kyle Schwarber. That's just a basic example. Looking back the last 3 years, and this is directly to what we're about to talk about, 2021, 2022, 2023. In those 3 years, we had 23 players total, so 8 a year on average, that had a mark of 350. Okay, so remember I said the league average is about 300. 23 guys are about 8 a year the last 3 years at 350. At 370, we had 2 guys in 2021, 0 in 2022, and 1 in 2023. So we don't even average one of those guys a year from players that qualified for the batting title. Okay. So remember that 370 is a big number that is rarely reached. if you're looking at what to expect, the best way to do this, because of the sample size needed, we're talking 800 plate appearances for stabilization. If you look at the last 3 years, it'll probably tell you what's going to happen in year 4. It's not perfect, right? But if you just want a quick, easy 310, 310, 288, oh, that's 307 overall. 307 this year. That's our goal. Okay. And again, there's always variation there and everything, but that's roughly how to do this. If it's 340, 340, 340, and this year it's 290, we got to do some checking to see what the hell's going on, right? So 3 years, kind of what we're looking for. Here are some of the leaders in the way too early batting average balls in play rankings in 2024. And remember, 370 is a mark that's rarely attained over the course of a full season. The entire list that I'm showing you here, everyone's at 380 or higher, or 385 or higher. All of them. The odds that any player on this list, any of them, no matter what their skill set or their talent level, finishes the season with the batting average of balls in play of 385 is probably 3%. It's crazier than that, because if you're looking at this list, we got, 13, 14 guys at 400. Never happens at 400. Never. I'd have to go back and look. It's happened twice in the last 30 years. I'm making that number up. I'm trying to remember from my data. It has happened before. I mean, Ichiro Suzuki had a year where he was in the 390s, if I remember right. No one does it. Doesn't happen. It never happens, right? Ray, people hit 60 home runs. Yeah, they do, but it never happens. That kind of thing. Ryan McMahon's at 480. I don't even need to analyze Ryan McMahon to tell you that number's preposterous, right? So let's pull up Ryan McMahon, and who's off to a terrific start, right? We know his splits home and away and all that. Ryan McMahon's career batting average of balls in play is what? 319. That's aided by Coors Field a little bit, but it's 319. He's at 480. Remember I said 30 points, right? We've got to look at it. Ryan McMahon's never had a mark of over 327. That should cause you some concern with his overall performance. Because even if he sets a career best this year at 350 or something like that, he's back down to 326 the rest of the way, or 319 the rest of the way, his career number, right? So we don't use batting average of balls in play to tell us when a guy is good or not good. What I'm trying to lead you into here as we're discussing this is using it as a way to see where a player is right now and try to figure out where they're going to be. Let's further look at Ryan McMahon to continue this. Maybe Ryan McMahon is hitting the ball a lot better than he has in the past. Maybe his batting average of balls in play is up because he's hitting the ball better. Okay, let's look. Last year is about 11% barrel rate. This year, 11.5, about the same. Last year is a 45% hard hit rate. This year, 52%. That's a significant jump. The last 5 years, an exit velocity of about 91 miles an hour. This year, it's 94. Okay, that's a significant jump too. Now, again, it's 52 batted balls, but these are significant. Those, especially hard hit and barrel rates, that's significant. That's significant. So what that tells us is, okay, maybe some of that batting average of balls in play growth is earned, right? But again, even if it's earned, we're going to see a 348 mark or something like that, and it's 480 right now. Jesse Winker, 439 is the next guy up. Jesse Winker is someone we've talked about here previously. Excuse me, I've talked about Winker for years. He's one of my guys, always been one of my guys. He's a very good hitter. He's also someone with a career batting average of balls in play of 300. Mason Wynn, in opposition to these other two guys, is a speedy fella. So it stands to reason, everything being equal, and this is not always how it works, but everything being equal, it stands to reason his batting average of balls in play would be a little bit higher than Ryan McMahon, just because of the type of player he is. Now, having a mark at 436 is too high. But you look at what he's doing here, and last year he had a 47% ground ball rate. This year it's 37%. So it's like now we're starting to get into the realm of being league average. Now, league average fly ball rate's not going to help you keep that batting average of balls in play at a huge level. So there's some concern there. William Contreras, Ezequiel Tovar, Jose Altuve, Nelson Velasquez, Orlando Arcia, Trey Turner, Logan O'Hoppe, all these guys are at 410 or above. To reiterate, if they finish at 350, it's a great season. I'm not saying to sell all these guys on this list. I'm saying that we need to look deeper as to what's going on with these players and their strong starts. How much of this is merely fortune of the batting average of balls in play? Is it a scenario like it is with Ryan McMahon, where he's hitting the ball harder? Okay, that's really impressive. I didn't even mention this either. His strikeout rate is down. It was 32% last year. This year, it's 25%. Okay, so he's putting the ball in play more. He's also got a 12% walk rate, which would be a career best. Okay, he's being more selective. So I'm willing to look at Ryan McMahon and say, look, he's being more selective. He's striking out less. He's hitting the ball harder. There could be some staying power to the success in the batting average of balls in play category. Of course, that staying power, as I'm pointing out, might be 350 this year, right? It's not 480. But I'm not saying bail on Ryan McMahon or trade Ryan McMahon today, because his overall profile is one that's, we're moving in the right direction. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's talk about some of the guys on the downside. And these guys, no matter what, are going to get better. This is, we could talk about the up on the bottom end when your number's 110 or 114 for Victor Scott. I mean, come on. Victor Scott, who's blazing fast too, right? It's 114. Francisco Lindor is 156. Let's look at Francisco Lindor, because he's someone we talked about a lot because of his early season struggles. Starting to pull out of it, but his early struggles are pretty pronounced, right? 478 OPS right now. He is, for his career, 289. So he's a little bit below the league average, Francisco Lindor. The last 3 years, he's had seasons of 248, 301, and 277. In total, he's been at 278. Again, a little bit below the big league average, a little bit below his career number, but 278. It's currently 156, okay? His walk rate is above the last 3 years. His strikeout rate is below the last 3 years, so he's not having problems with the strike zone. The exit velocity is down about 3 miles an hour, significant downturn. The hard hit rate's down about 5%, significant downturn. So he's actually pulled the opposite of Ryan McMahon. Like the gains that McMahon has shown, Lindor hasn't. That's not the only reason, but that's a really good starting point to say, why is there such a gap in their batting average of balls in play, right? If you look at the case of Lindor, his launch angle is about the same as it always is, right? So it's not like he's hitting everything in the air. In fact, his 41% fly ball rate is lower than last year. It's the same as it was in 2021 and 2022. So again, we start building the profiles. I think the main point is, and it's, again, too early to do this, and we shouldn't be doing this, but I wanted to just toss it out there as a talking point, that when you look at a player's performance up or down, it's not right to say the batting average of balls in play tells the story. When batting average of balls in play became hot 10 years ago, every article was batting average of balls in play. Oh, it's 350, it's going to be 300. It's 250, it's going to be 300. Every article is about that. Then we started to understand the nuance, or describe it better to users and listeners, the nuance of batting average of balls in play. So that's all I'm trying to do here, is say, look, if a guy's off to a hot or cold start, look at his batting average of balls in play category. See what it looks like. Is it crazy in one direction or the other, right? Francisco Lindor, 289 for his career. Could he have a season of 250? Yeah, he could. He ain't going to have a season of 150, right? Come on. Ryan McMahon could be showing gains, batting average, strikeout, hard hit. Yeah, it's not going to be 480. Even if it's 380, which would be spectacular, weight off of 480. So you can use it when it's that extreme. You can definitely take a look at it. When we're in the 30 points above the norm for this player zone, that's when this is really valuable, because it's like, if we look at everything with the profile of the player, and everything looks the same. Fly ball rate's the same, pull rate's the same, ground ball rate's the same, walk rate's the same, strikeout rate's the same, and his batting average of balls in play is up 57 points this year. It's probably coming down. And if that number comes down, unless his home run rate skyrockets, his batting average is going to come down, right? So use it kind of as a gateway drug, if you will. Again, it's way too early to do this. I'll revisit this as the season goes on, when we get data that could reasonably, because this data we're talking about now is not reasonable, reasonably start to look at and say it might mean something. 75 plate appearances is not enough to mean anything. But again, I just wanted to utilize it. Some names on the list for those of you that aren't able to view it. Maikel Garcia, who hits the ball really hard, right? His number's way down. He had a hot start and then he went cold. That number is going to go way up for him. Shea Langoliers, slow guy that hits the ball in the air. Okay. Jack Sawinski, same thing. Carlos Santana, same thing. Javier Baez, Nolan Shanuel, J.P. Crawford, Anthony Santander, really interesting. Joey Gallo, Cody Bellinger, Mitch Garver, Edward Julian. A lot of guys that are struggling early in the season too, right? So hopefully all that made sense. If you have further questions, hit me up in Discord over at fantasyguru.com. All right, let's go to some of the comments. Let's see what we got here before we shut this sucker down here on a Friday. Ivan says good morning. Jason says good morning. Tony says good morning. Doug says good morning. Same to all of you. And I appreciate you all saying morning. I don't know if you're all on the West Coast like me. I always love that when people say, hey, good afternoon, Ray. And it's 9:38 in the morning because they're on the West Coast, on the East Coast, and it's actually technically afternoon for them. So I appreciate you all saying good morning. Thank you. Look at Brandon. Brandon says good morning too. Can you write a piece or talk about on the show players that are widely underperforming as good trade targets and vice versa for good trade candidates? Well, I kind of did that today. And this question's come up a couple of times, and I even addressed it on the show yesterday, I think it was. This show every day, my comments in Discord every day, and the articles I write at Fantasy Guru are all doing this, right? I never write an article and review a player and just leave it, right? I always say, this is someone I'm interested in. I think it'll get better. Bail on this guy, trade him now. You shouldn't be interested in this player. I say it all the time to give that advice. Today, I wrote the article, It's Too Early to Panic. So, Brandon, to answer your question or your comment, the article, It's Too Early to Panic, isn't an article that says, these are players that, well, let me back this up. It's actually directly what you're asking for. It's too early to panic. I wrote it from the perspective of, I have Alex Bregman on my team. Hold on to Alex Bregman and don't be nervous. But to your point, he's underperforming. I think there's a guy that makes a guy in Bregman that's really going to rebound. He's a perfect trade candidate. So actually, the article today, Brandon, I encourage you to read. It's Too Early to Panic. Just pivot it. Don't look at it as I've got these guys on my team, so I need to hold on and be patient. Look at that. Look at the article as these are guys I should be targeting, because if their current owner isn't, patient with them and I can get them at a discount, I'm going to get a really good player. And happy Baseball Friday. Same to you, Brandon. I'm glad the games are back. I'll be writing the cash game breakdown after this. We'll have it back today over at fantasyguru.com. Okay, so here we go. Don Playback Bus. Sorry, I had to get it right. Hello, I have a few questions about DFS. When do you spend up on a bat? Too general of a question, Don. I'll answer it quickly here. We have a Discord over at fantasyguru.com that's devoted completely to DFS, so you can ask all kinds of questions in there to all the folks that do the DFS baseball writing for us, Chris Rose, Scott Bonder, myself. You can go there and ask questions about roster builds. You can ask, hey, what do you think about this guy today? You can say, here's my team today. Would you remove this guy for this guy? You can do all that. And when you say, when do you pay up for a bat? It depends. Are you playing GPP? Are you playing cash? Which website? Are you playing on DraftKings or FanDuel? Because the scoring is different. The lineups are different. I write the cash game breakdown. So normally for me, I'm not a GPP guy. I'm a cash guy. When I write the cash game breakdown, I will include Freddie Freeman or Shohei Ohtani. If the matchup is banging, I'm putting them in the write-up. If I'm building a team, because I do this every day, after I write the article, I always build my team to see, okay, is my advice going to lead to someone building a decent team? When I build my team, I hardly ever have Freddie Freeman or Shohei Ohtani in it. They're just too expensive. Mookie Betts, Acuna, they're just too expensive. And I often write that in my cash game articles. I don't know how you pay this price, but so for me, because I'm doing cash games, I generally don't pay up. In a cash game scenario, you don't want to have on FanDuel, Shohei Ohtani at $4,200 and then have to play some catcher at $2,300. Like that's just not the goal. In GPP, it's different. Because in the GPP, you're talking about stacking a team against a pitcher, or in a scenario, you're looking to get that big top end. You're willing to take the risk on the lower place guys. So it's a question that needs more nuance. And I encourage you, Don Playback Bus, to hit us up over in Discord at fantasyguru.com. We're happy to answer that in more depth. And you can ask your question in more depth too and give it a little bit better answer. Patio Joe sneaking in. Patio Joe, you answer these own questions yourself. Patio Joe writes the Umpire Report for us, the Great Umpire Report. Check that out over at fantasyguru.com. Really helpful article when you're talking about trying to set your lineups. He also does the Fab article on Saturdays. Are you buying into Jake Irvin or Ryan Weathers? Joe, you should read the website, fantasyguru.com, because someone wrote about Ryan Weathers yesterday in a thing called Ray's Ramblings. I don't know. Check that out. Jake Irvin's been really good. He's been very effective. I think that Jake Irvin, am I buying in? No. There's always the concern I have with the Nationals. They're not a winning team at the moment. Things are going pretty well right now with some of the guys on offense in particular, but I worry about offensive support there. Let's pull up Irvin quickly though, because he had a shutout effort the other day when he pitched, right? If I'm not mistaken. Let's look him up. We'll do a quick little breakdown of Jake Irvin here on the show. Jake Irvin has made 4 starts, 3 ERA, 1 WHIP. On the surface, this is great, right? Batted ball data, 90-mile-an-hour exit velocity, 41 hard hit rate. It's got an expected ERA of 4.3, pretty league average. You look at the ground ball to fly ball ratio, 1.12 for his career, pretty league average. You look at the pitch mix, a lot of fastball, 60% fastballs is a lot of fastball when you have a strikeout rate of only 19%. It's not a great number there. His early going effort this year, he's not even at 60% in the first pitch strike rate because the stuff isn't dominant, because he's not always ahead in the count, because he's below league average there. The ability to generate swings outside the strike zone is 26%, which is not a good number. He's a streamer, and I think that's fair. I don't think that anyone adding Jake Irvin, I hope, is under the misapprehension that they're really getting something. I also would point out that, while he looked great against the Dodgers, he did face the Athletics before that. That's as cake, right? So one strong effort, because it should be one strong effort against a really good lineup. Watch list kind of guy for Jake Irvin, but I just don't see enough strikeout potential. I don't see enough runs scored support for the win column. So I'm very lukewarm on Jake Irvin. Finally, Ruby17. I always wait to draft pitching and always end up with Logan Webb. And you always end up with the good pitching staff, don't you, Ruby? Yes. Or is it Rubby? It's probably Ruby, right? It could be Rubby17. I guess 2 B's is Rubby. I'm going to go with Ruby because it sounds better, but yeah, it's probably Rubby. Logan Webb, as we talked about earlier today, he's just effective. And, the strikeouts you can find other places. And a lot of people early in drafts, they're looking for that 200 strikeouts. And it's like, I want the guy, let's be honest here. And you all know this from following my work. I want the 200 innings. 200 strikeouts, sure. I'll just grab Joe Ryan, 6 rounds later, right? And that's what I did, right? I'll get the strikeouts somewhere else. The days of I'm just, get your strikeouts with Hunter Green. How's that going, right? So, yeah, Logan Webb is just good. And he is the Giants' ace. There's no question about it. He is thrown in the toilet the horrible spring, which thank goodness, because I was getting a little nervous there at the end of spring training. It's like, gosh, are the lights going to go on and this is going to work? Because I'm really high on this guy. The early returns thus far have been pretty positive. So there you go, folks. Thanks for listening today. We'll be back on Monday. Don't forget to get the MLB, DFS, or wagering package. They're available right now at fantasyguru.com. If you get either one of those packages, you get all the other sports besides football for free. We'll give you all our postseason NHL coverage, our postseason NBA coverage, our racing coverage, our MMA, our golf. All of that gets added free if you get the baseball wagering or baseball DFS package. Go to the website, join now in the top right. You see the link there on the page too if you're watching it. It's a really great deal. We've also got the off-season package for football, the NFL package for football right now. It's popping, folks. We're getting to that point where the draft is coming up. We had Tyler Beaker on talking about it yesterday. The NFL package for $19.99. You get our off-season franchise mode. That covers all of the free agency, and that covers all of our run-up to the draft. All of those player profiles, the 30-plus that Tyler mentioned yesterday, those are all part of that. So for $19.99, you can get that football package at fantasyguru.com. And whatever package you get, try the promo code. It should work for most of them. FSD20, FSD20 at fantasyguru.com. I got a cash game breakdown to write. Enjoy your weekend. Hit me up in Discord over at the site. And I'll talk to you all again on Monday. This has been Ray Flowers for Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.